Hi, Felipe. How's it going?
Hello, Dylan. How are you, man? All
Doing
good?
well, doing well. Just fall's around the corner here in Canada, so we had a beautiful summer. Hopefully, we get a couple more weeks. How is it down there in Brazil?
Oh, this week is wonderful. We're gonna have a heat wave because of the El Nino, so it's already 9 o'clock in the morning and 30 degrees Celsius. Nice. But
Well,
it's good. It's hot. It's a
yeah,
good weather. Good weather.
I'll take that weather in a couple weeks. I'll be wishing for that for sure. But I know this is exciting times. Our fourth episode of Trailblazing, and we got our guest. I don't want to keep it long, but before you get on, we got a guest from Carl. He's from Thailand. He's not actually from Thailand. He's American, but he's over there running, a co-founder of an e-commerce platform. So without further ado, let's bring him in and go from there.
Yeah, just bring Carl. Waiting for
Drum roll.
technology to help us out.
Drum roll.
Let me put Carl down here because he's our guest.
I'm your guest. There we go. Get over there. All right. Perfect.
Oh,
There
Carl,
he
how are
is.
you, man?
I think it works. It works great. I'm all right, man. How you guys doing? Just got
Doing
back from the
fine, doing
beach.
fine.
Yeah. What's the time there?
Awesome. We're moving up into 7:30. Not so bad. 7:30 at
7:30.
night.
Okay. In what
Ah, nice.
city are you living in right now?
7. Well, I'm in Coron, which is one of the seaside villages in Phuket on the island.
Nice.
Nice.
You know Phuket, Thailand? Yeah, it's about an hour flight from Bangkok, hour south. It's a beautiful island. It's the largest island in all Thailand, by far the largest. It's more like a key. You know, you can take a bridge. It takes about 10 minutes to get to the island. But then once you're on the island, it's very mountainous and surrounded by beautiful ocean. So it's pretty awesome.
Okay. Well,
Fantastic.
again, our inside joke is every episode we film, we say, "Oh, we got to do the podcast where you're from." So it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I guess we'll have to come down.
the weather's just about right now. So we'd be happy to have you. You'd be one of about 40 million that are planning to visit this year. So right
Wow.
on.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
lot of people.
We're expecting a really big season. You know, the first high season since COVID, it broke the record, but it still wasn't like the first season they were hoping for. So we're looking for this season to really get back to normal and have all the engines firing with all their pistons for sure. From what we can see when it comes to cannabis tourism, we're going to have a much bigger group than last year for sure. Uh, Simply by word of mouth. Everyone had a good time last year, and we're more developed. Infrastructure is more ready to go. A lot more variety of products, you know, that measure up to the standards that people are used to in places like the U.S. and Uruguay and Canada. So yeah, we're psyched. For real.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is exciting, like for us, and we'll let you do an intro and tell your background in a second here. But like our podcast, we're trying to, I'm obviously in Canada and dealing North America, in cannabis, but we want to show how massive this industry is. Like talk about, speak to people in different countries they wouldn't expect, and show them like how on a global scale, how big cannabis is going to be and how it's going to unite everyone. So, I mean, this is fun for us. We got, so Felipe in South America, I'm in North America, you're in Asia. So it's just like, we can connect everyone and exciting times. But maybe, go ahead and tell us, your background and kind of what got you here.
Right. Well, I guess I like to say I've been debating legalization of cannabis since I was about 12 years old. My I come from a strange family, I guess. And my mom and dad like to watch controversial shows and argue about them in fun ways, and they got the kids to argue. So I can remember looking back at an old show that's been canceled for years. It was called Firing Line by William F. Buckley, and they had this series of debates about legalizing marijuana, right, as it's called in the U.S. And this is a time, I'm pretty old, and my parents waited until they were old to get married. So this was a long time ago, right? This was a situation where no one really expected, or at least of my parents' age, expected their kids to be smoking weed yet. That's how early this was. Now, my parents eventually found out, and they didn't approve of it at all. And it was after they had found out, and we were still playing the game that I would always hide it from them, and they would never approve of it. And looking back, they were probably right because smoking as a minor is probably not the smartest thing you can do. But nevertheless, all that said, we would talk about these shows and these debates, and they would always be totally pro legalization, right? Even though they didn't want it in their house, they liked the idea that it was legal because they liked the idea of human freedom and freedom of citizens. So that always stuck with me. And another thing that led me here was I spent a year in South Korea years ago as a junior in college. And I even spent 15 months because I stayed on for the extra summer teaching English because I liked it so much. And it always stuck with me, my experience in Asia, and I always wanted to get back. So I went off and did my thing and went off and studied, got a couple of graduate degrees in philosophy, one in London and one at Yale University. And then started my own writing consulting business where I was kind of ghostwriting and publishing for investment advisors, which was a lot of fun and enjoyable. But, toward the end of that experience, I really felt like I wanted to go out, get back to Asia, and write about things myself. So I came to Southeast Asia, not knowing about cannabis, here to Thailand, and found out about the cannabis revolution that was happening. They had just legalized medical cannabis at the time. No one had any idea that it would become as free and legal as it has become. But to me, it was like this was the answer to what I've been looking for because legalization of cannabis represented one of the problems that I felt was keeping back all of Southeast Asia, that it was too restrictive in its laws in a number of ways. I mean, Southeast Asia was able to pretty much grow right out of serious grinding third world poverty since the 80s to the degree that there's really not a problem with malnutrition anywhere outside of, say, Myanmar because the war is going on. But generally, that's a huge triumph, right? Because they went from about 30 to 40% of the population were malnutrition threatened, in the 80s, and now that's all gone. But my question is, why has it stopped? Why hasn't it kept going up? Why haven't they gotten, to their place with the rest of the wealthy nations? And cannabis is a great example of why. Because when they came down on cannabis, they came down stronger than anybody in the world. Still today, Thailand's neighbor over in Singapore, which is the one wealthy nation in the neighborhood, they still will kill you if you are found possessing too much cannabis. This happened at least twice in 2023. Last time was just terrible. It was a young kid from Myanmar who had some weed in his trunk and was doing a favor for somebody. Of course, there was some dealing going on, but it was about a kilo of cannabis. So they hanged him by the neck until dead just a couple months ago. So this is still
It's bizarre. It's bizarre to think about something like that in 2023, especially in a country like Singapore that's highly technological. It doesn't fit.
Right.
It doesn't
seem to, does it? Yeah. And Thailand has in its history committed capital punishment for drug dealers, and so has Vietnam, but they've stopped doing that. But officially, all of these countries except Thailand have extraordinarily draconian laws that are still in place today, right? So the fact that Thailand is the one place where they're experimenting, I think it's, well, it made me decide to just forget traveling around and stay here. And I've been here ever since. And I'll be here for at least another 10 years to see how this all pans out. So, and we'll know a lot more in a few months because there are big changes on the road along the way. So right around the corner, I should say. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then maybe tell us about, like, obviously I got connected to your business partner and whatnot, but yeah, maybe tell us about what you're into now in the industry and yeah,
How it started, maybe.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Well, I'm still writing and researching, but I got a very happy surprise along my way with my journey with writing, becoming an advocate for cannabis and a cannabis journalist and looking at the economics of it, because I met this firebrand of a startup CEO, and we became really good friends. His name is Jake Sutton. He's a 27-year-old who, as I mentioned to you before, Dylan, he's already developed and exited from one startup, and this is his second one. And I met him just when he was developing the ideas. And so I became somehow, through luck and hard work, a co-founder of Cannabox, which is the organization that Jake has started. And we are just really expanding right now on my side of the coin. I call it's the Cannabox coin, because we have the e-commerce site, which is the only one in Thailand of its kind. We're really psyched about that. Even though it's a beta, we still have a steady stream of customers coming in every day. And, we encourage everyone to give it a try. As long as you're in either a major or even mid-sized city in Thailand, it's going to work for you. We can guarantee delivery from your dispensary of choice within 30 minutes. And that's what's cool about it, is because we curate all of the dispensaries. So we make sure that they're licensed and that they care about cannabis. Some, we've gotten some bad reviews, and we try to check it out as quickly as we can. But the idea is that we want to create standards so that ideally you can get into your neighborhood, walk around, see the dispensary you like, find there that the bud tenders are serious, they care about their product, buy some weed there. But then for the rest of your stay, or maybe if you're an expat for the rest of your life, you can just call Cannabox and have it delivered from that very same store. So again, going back to this idea that we like at Cannabox, that we're all every day trying a little bit harder to be conscious cannabis users. This is a way to know everything about the cannabis that you're getting, even though you're abroad and you might not even know how to get around the neighborhood, but you can know that your cannabis is coming from the store that you visited. So we think it's very cool. So that's the e-commerce side. Then I come in on the communication side. And since it's been rainy season and we haven't had that huge influx of e-commerce customers, I've been taking advantage of the fact that I can still get the attention of the developers sometime and ask them to help me with my infrastructure and communications, because I know soon all their time is going to be taken up just filling orders and making sure everything's cool. So we've developed a series of podcasts, doing a lot of things with guest writers on our blog at Cannabox. The idea is, you shop for some weed, go over to the blog and get educated, or find out some things about what's happening in Thailand right now that might help you on your journey. So we're doing the podcast and the stories, but we're also doing events. Just got off of a great event last week. I flew into Bangkok, where Jake was, and we had campaigned very briefly. We only spent about 3 weeks campaigning for this event, and it turned out great. It was about twice the size of our last one. It was at a local restaurant outdoors, but we had a couple hundred people there. We had a workshop and a panel. We had the largest manufacturer of CBD products there. He was giving a workshop, Dr. CBD. We had the president of the Phuket Cannabis Association, Thames was there. He was also, apropos of what we were talking about earlier, Dylan, he was one of the founding partners of the clinic, I think, escapes my memory, Greenhead Clinics that we were talking about, the largest dispensaries. So he was there, and we had other experts. We had a number of other people, but the point is that we also had 7 vendors who were able to showcase their stuff. It was a great time. We like to go to these venues that offer food and drink. We feel like it's a much more relaxed place for people to really make connections. It's not just like doing convention style networking ballroom. We want to provide a place where people can hang out. And we also make sure there's a great big consumption area so you can hang out and consume your favorite herb and then come back in and have some dinner or drinks, whatever it may be. So we expected this to stop around 8:30, but I finally left because I was tired at 10:30. I had to check out, being an old timer, the OG that I am, but it was still going really strong at 10:30. So I think it went on to about midnight. So we were happy with that. And, we're also publishing a guide on track and trace coming out in conjunction with one of our podcasts. So all this is happening. We're just trying to do whatever we can to convince the powers that be not to change anything, or if they do have to change anything, make the changes small. There are a lot of changes that our partners want, but they're small ones. They're not big ones.
Definitely.
We know that this has been going on. Yeah, we've been going on for 16 months this way. And in spite of the fact that the international media tried to generate some interest by talking about all these horrible things that started to happen as soon as cannabis was fully delisted from the narcotics list in Thailand, and that's when all the dispensaries went up. Well, there was this spate of articles about all the new cases of marijuana overdose, and there was psychotic symptoms and children.
Maybe.
This went on for about 2 weeks, right? And then nothing since then. So I guess the problem has been solved, right? The point is that we've had 15 months of a very open and free cannabis culture, and no one has been harmed. The rule came down that no one under 20 could partake or even be inside a dispensary. I haven't heard of that rule being broken. The only other rule that we have is that if you're pregnant, you shouldn't. Well, you cannot consume cannabis. That's pretty easy one to follow.
I think that's
right?
worldwide.
Yeah, it's not one that you have to develop a huge force in order to enforce that one. So other than that, you have to be licensed to sell it. You have to be licensed to grow. Once you have the license, it's pretty much free reign. So it's been a really free market here for 15 months. And there have been some problems with, of course, too many dispensaries on the block. But other than that, there really haven't been any problems. There's been the natural. Yeah, go ahead.
Before this legalization, like you mentioned, 16 months, 15 months ago, because that's something that people imagine that Thailand is like one of those countries where everything is forbidden, and you're gonna have several, like severe punishments, etc. And sometimes people don't understand how it jumped from something very conservative to a very open cannabis. So, did Thailand already had this like underground cannabis culture, grow shops, head shops, or it was something that was you wouldn't see it like easily before,
Yes.
years?
I understand. Yeah, the answer to that is simple. That it is as crazy as you can imagine, because there was nothing before. There was only jail and prison for the Thais, and blackmail and being deported and blackballed from the country if you were non-Thai.
Wow.
Blackmail went on all the time. Okay, I won't say that I was once blackmailed, but somebody who looked a lot like me was, and most of my friends had been at some point. So,
Wow.
and that's all.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's all gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It changed overnight. Changed
Yeah.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And some of the, like, how many, just to get an idea, I've heard numbers, but how many dispensaries, how many facilities are there right now up and running?
Right, that's a good question because the media lowballs it. I think the official number is 6,000 licenses and 8,000 dispensaries. More honestly, realistically, based on my talking with sources in the business and also in the bureaucracy, you have more like 9,000 licenses given out and 12,000 dispensaries across the country right now.
Whoa.
Wow.
And there's
12,000.
Yeah, there's 70 million people here in basically 5 major cities. 4 really. So they're all in those 4 cities. Yeah.
And like, how many do you think the country, what's the good number? Like, what, because we see saturation in markets all the time, and then the number comes down. But
Right.
we see saturation for, like, 1,700 dispensaries in a state, or, but yeah, that's incredible. Like, do you think it'll come down to like 5,000 dispensaries will be profitable? Like,
Well, I'm talking to partners in those franchises. I'm talking to big manufacturers of CBD. I'm not talking to journalists on this one, and they're saying it's going to be about 60 to 70% will go away. So
We remain like with 3,000-4,000 maybe.
exactly. Yeah, it'd be a lot of pain for a lot of people, but in the long run, it's going to make for a healthy garden. You're going to have to pick some weeds for sure.
yeah, definitely. And then, are there major POS companies down there? Are there major, like, payment companies down there? Like, what other vendors are in the space?
That's a great question because the tech here is super innovative and there's not a great deal of competition because it's Thailand and it's all brand new. POS is, we don't have anything integrated. Remember now, there are no regulations with regard
Yeah.
to POS, taxation, or track and trace. But the word is on the street, and it's actually starting to leak out into some of the local papers, is that they're going to get big on track and trace. So there are a few companies coming in to try to see how much market share they can get. But it's funny. Well, I guess it's going to be the same in any middle income country. You certainly can't afford a big track and trace company coming from Europe is charging European prices. We had a couple of those come in and no one bid, it was just too expensive. So what we do have that I'm very hopeful for, and I'm working with one of these companies, I guess that's okay. I don't want to, mix too much my promotion of a company with what I'm trying to say objectively. And it's hard to do that because I'm really passionate about this industry and I know a lot of these players. So the track and trace company that I really am passionate about, we're going to publish their guide. It's going to be the ultimate guide to track and trace in cannabis in Thailand. It's coming out next week. So he's on top of all of this and very excited about the fact that it looks like it's going to be regulated. And that because even he is coming in at a much lower price point, making it possible to pay on a sliding scale depending upon your size, this kind of stuff. Even that, you can't get these dispensary owners to dish out any additional cash that's not mandatory. So we're waiting for that. And even if it's like a big nudge from the government, that's going to be close enough. And the serious players who want best practices and have some capitalization because they planned ahead, they want some track and trace too. So we got the players out here. It's just a question of revving that up. And I think by the end of this high season, the company that I'm thinking about will have captured quite a bit of market share, and they'll be servicing their own cohort. It'll be the first cohort of track and trace dispensaries here in Thailand. So that'll happen, right after the new year. Yeah.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. And wow, it's are the dispensaries only taking cash? Or are they taking credit card?
They'll take cash, credit card. Well, I say anything. It's not anything, but yeah, they'll take any credit card, any debit card, cash, no problem.
Okay.
Because there are no laws against anything. So there aren't these issues that come up in the United States, and it's not as if you have to have a clear federal. It's kind of, I guess it's a mandate. It would be a mandate that this would be legal across, from one border to the next. Once it was taken off the narcotics list, they made clear that they wouldn't arrest anyone for possession, and then the market just was created, and they let it go. So there's really no laws, no regulations here. We're starting from a blank slate, which is pretty cool, really.
Yeah. It's the wild, wild west for sure.
Yeah.
The public and the public that consumes from these stores in general. I'm asking that because, for example, in Brazil, I'm gonna mention the event that I went for Expo Cannabis. Majorly, like 80%, 85% were young people. I say young, like I would say like less than 30. A small parcel of that would be like older people that were visiting the stands and stuff. The public in Thailand, is it kind of like the same? Like younger people are more fond of cannabis, or is it like mixed? Like in USA, generally, you can see more like
It's more of a mix. It's more of a mix, and I'll tell you why. 95% of the market is international, right? They're going to be expats, and people who are coming for their 3 to 4 month stay. And tourists, are a mix, but most of the tourists are going to be from Western things right now, though that's slowly changing. We have I just met with a big grow in outside Bangkok, all Japanese run. They have a couple of American grow masters, but they are now moving to Japanese tourists to come and check out their Japanese weed made in Thailand. Japanese.
That's interesting.
So
yeah, that is
another develop the cannabis tourist trade, right? Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, we've got hotels that are developing cannabis retreats. Very sophisticated cannabis retreats, mixing it in with as much alternative wellness, kind of holistic healing medicine you want to engage in. So you can pick a la carte. You could just hang out on your balcony and smoke weed if you want to, or you can get involved with like the daily wellness activities, meditation, sound baths, and all kind of stuff. And they have, really cool. I know that, one hotel is doing this at the end of this month. In fact, it's the first one to do so. It's a pretty ballsy move on their part, because as a hotel, you're investing your whole brand in this move, even before you know what the regulations are. So they're pretty confident. But they're going to, again, be very educational about it. They're going to have the people who grew the cannabis that they're offering to be there and to talk about it, and to have pictures and slides about how they grew it, what it is, giving them a chance to try it. And they'll be there over the weekend, so that they can actually come back the next day and say, this made me too sleepy, or this made me just like too too hectic, and all I wanted to do was talk and clean, and I drove my wife crazy, something like this. So this is all happening, and we're trying to move into a more adult kind of approach to cannabis. But that said, I mean, at our events, because they're kind of B2B based right now, although our next one, again, we're waiting for that high season to start, we'll bring in more consumers. But at B2B, of course, it's going to be a little bit of an older crowd, and we don't let anyone in under 20 to begin with. So it's more 20s and 30s and 50s and 60s for sure. But at the same time, a lot of people in Thailand are very hip to the idea that they've got this opportunity for free cannabis. So retirees are coming in more than ever asking for cannabis. We're having people ask for special medicinal cannabis. How can this help me? A lot of people don't know, they're just starting to realize that in Israel, cannabis is considered officially a gerontological drug, which all people over 55 are recommended to explore, right? And other than that, Israel's very conservative about cannabis. So
I
Right.
think
yeah,
Israel is one of the leading research lab technology
Hmm.
in cannabis. Like they're really good.
yeah,
But
they're
that
actually
what you mentioned raised me a question. Like for example, you said like most like 90% are foreign people that come to Thailand. But how about the acceptance of people from Thailand? Like the Thai
yeah,
people.
that's
Are they
rough.
like okay? For us it's good. Money,
Yeah,
economy.
that's a good question. Yeah, right. That's not that simple here. And one of the reasons is because of the demagoguery that's been going on with some of the politicians. And when there was a horrible war on drugs here in the early 2000s, where you had whole families being slaughtered if one of their kids was even suspected of being a drug dealer. You had a lot of
Oh,
extrajudicial killing. Yeah, it got really, and that's when all of the prisons were just packed with cannabis users. And so this whole revolution was in response to that. I mean, they were literally packed in like sardines. They were squished against the bars. These were kids in for 5 to 10 to 15 years for having like a brick of cannabis in their pocket. I mean, that's really going to jail for cannabis, right? Nothing else on their record. So this was all in response to that. But now, with this re-election of the same party that was the drug warrior party of the 2000s, they purposely stirred up a lot of fear among the rural constituencies, right? Because they're the ones you can scare the most easily if you start talking about cannabis and their children and how it can destroy their minds. And that's what they were doing for 6 months before they got into office, right?
yeah. They
So
make people reminisce about 2000s. That's
yeah,
nasty.
even worse than that, they bring people back to that uh, brain virus, which is a stigma, which is that cannabis is somehow evil and only engaged in by evil people. And if your children are engaging in consumption, that means you're a bad parent. This is the poison that they've been planting in their brains for years, and they started doing it again just for this last election. So for
Right.
that, there's a lot of anti-cannabis sentiment that they're still playing on, and that's why the new prime minister is hoping to gather support again from the rural community that he has horrified with his lies. Uh, he hopes to gain their approval by cracking down on cannabis for the children. So that's what we're facing. But it's not
Hmm.
all that bad. You have to keep in mind that it is a crazy coalition of 11 different parties, and that one of those members is a deputy prime minister, and he was the creator of the pot party. He was the one who legalized everything that we have, and he doesn't want anything to change. So we're going to sit and wait to see what happens. But I think we're safe for the high season. Nothing's going to happen that fast. There is this sense. Well, it's not a sense. It's kind of an old wisdom that has been shared with me by other Thai OGs who say that a lot of the politics here goes on for the amusement of the people. So you have and this is speculation on my part, but you have the deputy prime minister saying, "Oh, we're going to crack down on this marijuana. Oh, you better watch out," playing the bad cop. And then you have the deputy prime minister saying, "Nothing's going to change because everything's great. Look how it's helping the economy. We've got all these new jobs, so we can't wait for more." And they're talking past each other, but they sit next to each other every day. So we'll have to wait and see.
Definitely. It's yeah, I got kind of a million questions. It's like it's fascinating that the market down there. Um I spent a couple months. I lived in Australia for a bit. And I know, you know, the Aussies love to come over to Indonesia and Thailand and Vietnam. Do you see a lot of Australian investment or a lot of Australian tourism, like they kind of when they come into Bali and whatnot? Is the same for the market there?
Yeah, there's a lot of both. Now, I'm not in Bangkok, and I'm hanging around the circumvent area where all the backpackers and party people go. I'm out here in Phuket. Uh, we've got lots of Australians hitting all the dispensaries, and I know a few dispensary owners who are Australian, so they're on this.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't they be? It's only 9 hours away. It's not like 33 hours away for me. So
yeah,
it's a nice light. Yeah, they're contributing for sure. And it's been interesting to see how, because of the lack of access they have in Australia, they're far less sophisticated than a lot of Japanese buyers or other buyers from other countries. And I wouldn't have thought that, since they are a first world country and they're in the Commonwealth. I thought they'd be, kind of on the same level, but certainly in Canada, I mean, your understanding of cannabis is much more developed, and that just is one more happy result of making the plant legal, right? You learn more about it.
definitely. Yeah, I mean that's be interesting. Do you think Indonesia will ever legalize as well, or?
Well, interestingly, they are talking about moving into medical use
Okay.
already. And I started taking it seriously when I realized you had imams talking about it in the mosques, how good cannabis can be with regard to its medicinal qualities. Whether or not they'll go farther than that, who knows? But it's a step in the right direction. It's very encouraging news. Vietnam will probably never legalize it because they're communists, and they would never give up anything, I don't think, that would release their hold on their population. But at the same time, I lived in Hanoi for 3 months, and there were great weed shops and places where they were essentially bars, but they were more for weed users and purchasers than anyone else. So there's a pretty vibrant black market in Vietnam, and as far as I know, you don't have what was going on here in Thailand, which is law enforcement shaking down tourists for bribes. Um, I don't think that goes on in Vietnam at all. Cambodia, it's basically legal, but there's no real market there because Cambodia is the second poorest country in the world. Uh, but so, but there's some great places to go in Cambodia, beautiful places where you could go and enjoy cannabis, like Siem Reap, where I stayed a month in there to check it out. Siem Reap is where Angkor Wat is, one of the great wonders of the world, the largest temple on earth.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah. And they have some really mellow, I would say, indigenous style places to have some cold beer and purchase some very good cannabis and consume it right there on property. You know, I don't think there's bribery going on there again like there used to be in Thailand. It was almost accepted that everyone who carried cannabis regularly would eventually get caught and bribed among the international community. Among the Thai community, it was not accepted. They had to, they were walking around as if they were carrying an atom bomb or something, because the consequences of getting caught would be years and years in jail. But that's all gone now. Everybody can smile.
Yeah. That's what we hope for the whole world.
Well, I'll share an emotional aspect of this to you. As an OG, someone who had to be very paranoid about carrying for most of my life, right? Whenever I fly to Bangkok, I get such a thrill out of just, throwing a bunch of really great buds into a bag and putting it right into my carry-on suitcase. It's kind of a thrill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that you could just jump on a plane with your weed and see it, you show it to them, and everything's cool. You can't believe it's true. You know, I heard the alarm go off in front of me, and of course, I just got so paranoid. I'm thinking I got like $100 worth of weed in my carry-on luggage that's in the machine, but it was the person in front of me whose belt went off, so everything's fine. So
Wow.
it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just a taste of freedom, you know, after years
Yes.
of paranoid. And you realize, again, a stigma that maybe even cannabis users of old help perpetuate, which is that cannabis makes you paranoid. But it doesn't make you nearly as paranoid when you know you're not going to get arrested for having a tiny little speck of plant in your pocket, right?
It's true. It's a good
Second
point.
Exactly.
parlor.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we've so far we've been able to lucky enough to have on the podcast, you know, guests from Costa Rica, the UK, Germany, yourself in Thailand. So, you know, our one of the things we want to do, and we hope you'd be interested, is kind of create this panel with, you know, guests from maybe, you know, five different continents, and we can all just discuss, you know, what we want to see globally. Just like our own little kind of panel. So, you know, it would be awesome to have you as well.
A debate
join
area
us.
where we can like exchange info, etc. Yeah.
No, I'd be grateful for that opportunity. I think it's cool. I mean, the idea is that it's a global garden full of cannabis, right? And it's sprouting up in different places. It's sprouting up where you least expect it. And things are happening fast. I mean, it would be great to cover that in the context of other countries because I'm expecting huge things to happen here in Thailand just this high season for cannabis, you know, and I see nothing but green pasture in the future. So to be able to talk about it with other people from other countries, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that'd be awesome. But Felipe, you got any more questions on your side there?
No, I covered up everything I wanted to know about Thailand because sometimes it's a very gray, you know, area for info. And it's like Dylan said, for us, the main thing is to get to know the companies, but also to know more about, you know, local markets, because every country has their own way of doing business. This is allowed, this is not allowed, etc. And for us,
Right.
this is really interesting because eventually
Yeah.
we want to be able to
Yeah.
make everyone make business with everyone, right? So
Yeah.
it's essential to get to know other countries,
Yeah, I know that that's
rules
part
and
of the plan.
regulations.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know that's part of the plan for the Cannabis Act, that they just started a new team to get back to the Cannabis Act now that there's a new government. And there's, you know, it's clear that they're creating regulations to accelerate the exporting of product from here and importing as well eventually. So, you know, it's going to become international as, again, the Deputy Prime Minister Newton, if you ever hear that name, read that article because he is our guy here for pro-cannabis advocacy. He has been
Okay.
instrumental. Without him, we couldn't have done anything. But if you hear the name, what was I going to say? It was about, I'm sorry, I forgot the point. You might want to edit that out. What was I talking about? It was a good point. I wanted to swing back around.
It was just the deputy minister has been amazing in Thailand. He's kind of been the forefront of the industry getting to where it is now.
Yeah. Oh, that's the point. That's the point. Is that his dream has been to have Thailand be the hub of cannabis for Asia, right? And that's an international dream. So that's what I would focus on if I was like a member of the team. Like, how is this international dream coming? How is the Asian hub? You know, because that's going to spell like a huge step forward for the other side of the world, man. For real.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And when Australia comes on board and New Zealand as well, that'd be interesting. See if what kind of model they go with, whether it's Europe or North America. So
I had one of your ministers scheduled to do a podcast with me. She's a pro-cannabis minister. Her name, I only know her first name. I don't mean to be disrespectful. This is going to be a public podcast. But her name is Rachel. I don't know if that rings a bell with you. But
Okay.
anyway, she's going to be on. She was here in Thailand. She's been consulting with hotels that are doing cannabis retreats. And she thinks it'd be a great idea to get Australians coming to those hotels to explore cannabis, educate themselves, and so on. So
Interesting. Yeah, that would be. I mean, yeah, cannabis tourism. You know, there was a restaurant, kind of a restaurant that's opening in Canada. It's like a restaurant plus the product side of it. It's like cannabis infused foods, and it's actually federally legal. They're opening soon here in Edmonton. So cannabis tourism is the next, kind of the big wave. And it makes sense. I mean, I speak to people that they're in Puerto Rico, and they talk about, how like the daily sales they get of people coming off, ships and whatnot. And it does make sense. I mean, there's some really good numbers, and definitely helps with the industry when you get that tourism coming in, for sure.
Absolutely. And for tourists, you need different kinds of things to do, whether it's a retreat at a beautiful resort on the beach, or whether it's a cool restaurant that has good food. And with cannabis infused food, at the beginning of high season, I'll say, and I guess this is typical. I mean, there's no way around it. There was a lot of crap being sold. It's just like, again, desperate people at restaurants throwing cannabis leaves into some soup or something, which gave the whole idea a bad name. But that's gone this year. We, in fact, had 2 gourmet chefs at our event just this last week, 3 days ago in Bangkok. And they were doing really cool things, like giving out their THC infused chili juice or chili oil that you could use at home with your spaghetti or whatever it may be, rather than just cooking brownies and putting marijuana leaves in soup. They were doing some really cool things. And that's the future, is coming up with practical, serious cannabis products that are alternatives just to the dried flower. The dried flower may be the favorite go-to for many of us, and that's just the way it's going to be. But there's a whole wide world out there.
Yeah.
And we are still looking for our first sponsor. If you know anyone interested, we're just so okay. If you know anyone interested, sponsor the podcast, the Trailblazing. We're always looking, and we'll give them a little promotion, a little bump on the podcast every episode. So, awesome. Something to keep in mind. But
I mean, I got to tell you, if it's a Thai sponsor, I'll probably want them. But if I get enough Thai sponsors, I can give some to you.
There you go. There you go. Right. Yeah.
I don't know how hard these sponsors are to find. I thought that, they'd just be like messaging me all day, but it turns out they're not doing that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
right,
a slow
with your podcast. Yeah, of course.
You got to climb before you can, or crawl before you walk, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's just fun to connect people, I think, around the world. It's just unique, just to see how these governments are doing it.
I have to say, I really like this trailblazing format. It's pretty cool. You get on the background, and
that's Felipe. Felipe handles the anything to do with the design, and
it took me some hours of the day to discover how to do it, but it's not so difficult. But yeah, it's a way to keep it off that, because if you think about it, nowadays everything is home office and everyone's in that same square formation, and so that we can create like at least a different background to not be something so square. Yeah.
I know we're running over, but that's amazing because it'll bring out something else that I was talking to you, Dylan. I mentioned. I hope we can go just audio because I don't want to do visual, right? Remember that? I sent you the
Yeah.
email.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be on Zoom. And I'm like, shh. And the reason I think that way is because I'm so tired of seeing podcasts in those old boxes. It's a turnoff to me. And that's what I was expecting. But instead, I got Trailblazing. I mentioned it. It's really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's
Thanks.
Felipe. He's the brains behind that.
Thank you very much.
What I would say is Felipe is 100% conventional, though, and is kind of locked in a box on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My questions are restricted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's restricted. Yeah. You have to expand your medical use of
I know.
cannabis.
I'm stuck in the Canadian ways. I'm a little restricted, and Felipe's got the Brazilian kind of, creativity. A lot of music, good music.
Ready for carnival.
Yeah, ready for carnival. Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
Some months from now.
But
That was a great job.
Yeah, but I think we could go on for a lot longer, but I think we'll probably cap it there. And if there's anything else you want to touch on before we kind of end it, and
any final considerations?
I'd like to do a little bit on the Cannabis Cup.
Okay.
Tell you about the Cannabis Cup. I can just tell you about it now.
Yeah, for sure.
We're excited about it because Cannabox is the main partner of the Cannabis Cup this year. It's the second annual Cannabis Cup, sponsored by the Phuket Cannabis Association, and they were expecting about 300 people to show up for their first Cannabis Cup. It turned out the first one they had over 1,500 people in a hotel.
Ooh, nice.
Couldn't take it in the small space that they had. They had a lot of people were hanging out in the lobby. Actually emptied out into the parking lot. It was really wild. So this year they're getting ready for a large crowd. It's going to be not just one day, but 2 days. And it's going to be right at the beginning of high season. It's going to be December 1st and 2nd. And it's going to be at one of the most beautiful locations in all of Thailand. It's called, can't remember the name, but it's a great venue. It's 10,000 square meters, and they're focusing on wellness this year. So it's a holistic high and holistic health, which is pretty cool coming from the Phuket Association president, who's a really good cat. We had him on our panel just 3 days ago. It's going to be 2 days. They're going to have bands. They're going to have local music represented. So the south of Thailand will have different southern indigenous bands playing, as well as like modern bands as well. They're going to have places for massage, air-conditioned rooms. It's pet-friendly. It's even kid-friendly. So there'll be very strict areas for consumption where the minors won't be allowed to go, but there'll be many, many of these areas. Because last year it was just people getting together for the first time in their lives who they've never met before to engage. It was just a great, great event, and it was just packed. So we're getting ready for more of that. So we're excited about it because we're a Cannabox, and we're going to be there. We'll probably panel because we do panels wherever we go, and we're going to have fun. 2 days, and the cup itself. I'm also a judge. Let's not forget about that. Most people don't watch the actual end of the competition, but that's okay because it has a huge impact on that grow that wins, because that particular strain is a huge seller for the rest of the year. So that's all happening. It's going to be an international event. Get your tickets now.
What are the dates?
December 1st to December 2nd. And it's all on PhuketCannabisCup.com. We'll tell you everything you need to know. Buy your tickets there and even reserve your place in the hotel.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll have to make a trip down.
Oh, we'd love to have you, man. Let us know.
Yeah.
We'll put you on a podcast. We're gonna have podcasts and events at the event. We can do whatever we want.
Ooh,
okay.
That seems nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bring the whole family. It's a family event. I love that. It's fantastic. See, we're really are trying to get as an industry into a new kind of cannabis 3.0 kind of feel, right? Trying to leave behind stigmas, even the fun stigmas, right? That we enjoy maybe in this Guys nostalgic, right? The chicken chong days are kind of over. We're trying to get into like this is what adults who are enlightened and concerned about their well aging, right? Is getting to know one another, beautiful times, making beautiful connections, and learning more about cannabis and consuming more of your favorite cannabis.
Definitely.
So that's what the is. Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
So we have you. Come on over, man. Let us know. I'll be there for sure from beginning to end.
Yeah, we'll get the t-shirts printed and we'll be over.
Cool. Bring your merch, man. Bring it with you. We'll
Yeah,
have
yeah.
set it up. Yeah.
That'll be the opener for sure. But yeah, Carl, no, I just want to thank you for your time.
Pleasure, man.
Been an absolute pleasure. I'd probably, put this up there for our most interesting probably podcast so far for sure. Just like giving, you gave a great insight into what's going on in Thailand and what to expect in the future. I mean, some people know it's legal, but no one really knows kind of what's going on ground level, and you're there. So to give us that perspective is amazing.
Right. Yeah, and in terms of visiting, I mean, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. You're just walking in as long as they're open, and most of them are open till about 10 or 11. And there's bud tenders who know what they're doing, and they can help you or not, depending upon what your situation is. I know you guys are professionals, probably know what you're looking for. You can tell them what you're looking for, and it's very easy. If you've got cash, credit card, or debit card, you're good to go. And you can also buy, any accessories or any other cannabis products there. They're very proud of their new products in CBD and so on, which I don't ever want to marginalize because a lot of people just love CBD products, and that's cool too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Okay,
Right.
well let's cap it there, and then we'll get you on the next panel when we start it up in a month or so.
Oh, you can count me in for sure. We'll have to find more ways to collaborate, and make money together for sure.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Right on.
Appreciate it.
So it's Felipe, is that right? Felipe?
Yes, Felipe. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad you're working on the tech side for Dylan.
I'm learning. I'm not very tech savvy, but in modern days we have to learn. Like YouTube is the best
Sure.
learning platform in the world. So
I knew a guy who got a scholarship to like a full paid scholarship to engineering, 4-year engineering degree, and he's a little older, and he learned everything that he needed for his exams on YouTube before he went.
Wow.
So,
you learn everything on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all
listen, I know you
possible
guys
now.
got a day to start, so I won't keep you any longer. Got to go eat breakfast or something, right?
Yeah,
No,
gotta get my coffee, my morning coffee.
I know.
wake up coffee.
How's Montreal? Okay, is it hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm in Ottawa, about 2 hours away. Montreal,
Sure.
it's good. I was there recently. I was there a couple months ago. It's the same old. It's actually the market there is the government owns the cannabis stores, but there's a lot of cultivators, a ton of cultivators. So, but it's same old Montreal. It's like they do their own thing. They do it their way, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
It was basically legal when I was there back in like 2008, So I remember, I just roll up my joint at any local bar or cafe, and I felt that was like a big step for freedom. For me, coming from the States, you could never do that.
Right. Yeah, they don't really. Yeah, they don't really. I mean, you have to buy it through the government stores, which aren't as nice. You get private businesses; they put their own spin on it. But I mean, there's Montreal's a great city still. A lot of good nightlife, great restaurants, great food. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I dug I was there for 5-6 years and just loved it. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
only left. That's about when I was getting ready to come over here. So yeah, and if I went back, I'd probably just call up my original dealer, but I'm not supposed to say that because you're supposed to support the legal community. I know.
Well,
But my guy
he
always
might be in the legal industry now. Usually
right,
that's how it works.
might be.
Yeah.
I mean, he had somebody to deliver whatever I wanted in 15 minutes at my door, though. It's hard to beat that.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
tough.
a job, man. Yeah.
Talk about a fast delivery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Right. And now I'm back in
Awesome.
the business. Yeah. All right. Don't forget to check out Cannabox.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Thank you so much,
Will do.
Carl, for being with us in the podcast. It was awesome.
Hey, my pleasure. Yeah, if you could just put Cannabox and Cannabis Cup, PhuketCannabisCup.com.
We'll do it.
the link.
We're gonna
That's all
check
I
it
need.
out.
So sounds cool. And
Okay.
we'll be in touch for sure, right? We're gonna keep doing business together.
We'll be in touch next week. Thanks, Carl.
That sounds cool. Thank you guys very much. I think this has been the most fun I've had on the podcast. It's been cool.
Appreciate
Thank
Nice. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Right on.
we try to keep it organic and just see where it flows. So
Yeah. You guys are a good team. I like it.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay. Have a good one. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye,
Peace, man.
guys.
Peace out.
Have a wonderful day and thank you a lot.